What's up everybody, Safari Vian here and welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you 6 tips on how to photograph the big 5 on your next safari. Starting with tip number 1, know what kind of shots you want to get before going on safari. Do you want to get action shots of elephants playing in the water, or maybe a beautiful portrait of a leopard lazing in the tree? What about lions rubbing up against one another as they greet each other? Things happen very quickly on safari, and knowing what shots you want to get before you go helps you spot the action a lot quicker and set up your composition in an instant. Plus, it also helps you save a lot of time so that you don't spend too much time in a sighting that doesn't necessarily offer the photographic opportunities that you are specifically looking for, which will help you move on to the next sighting. And then tip number 2, know where to go on safari. Some parks are really good for lion encounters, while others are spectacular when it comes to leopard. Then you also get game reserves that market themselves as big 5, but you hardly get to see them. And I know this might seem as a fairly obvious point to touch on, but knowing what animals to expect in the areas that you'll be visiting will greatly increase your photo opportunities of them. Botswana in general is really good when it comes to elephant encounters, and if you want to photograph cats, I would suggest going to the Sabi Sands Game Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park. You get right up close and personal with the cats, and they are extremely comfortable with the vehicles, offering some great photo opportunities. The general Kruger Park as a whole is really good for buffalo encounters, and if you want to photograph something like black or white rhino, smaller private big 5 game reserves might be a good option for that, as you have a greater chance of encountering them. Now, I can't stress how important I believe that tip number 3 is, and that is to use a private safari guide or tour operator or visiting a private safari lodge. Imagine this. It's your first time encountering a leopard in the wild, but instead of enjoying the encounter and taking those banger shots that you've always wanted, you are left frustrated with the chaos of 30 other cars in the vicinity and sharing the sighting with you, and people are honking and leaving their cars idling, and they're being selfish with space. And it's just all out chaos and super stressful for you as well as the animal. Now, that's often what experiences can be like if you do a self-drive safari. But take that same encounter and put it in a private safari lodge setup. Now suddenly you only have 2, maybe 3 vehicles in the sighting. They all are being run by professional safari guides, which are in communication with one another. So there's less disturbance on the animal, there's less stress on you. And now not only do you have a guide that can help you interpret the animal's behavior, you have a guide that can even help you predict it, which is going to help you get even better shots of the leopard. Now, I'm pretty sure you can guess which one of the 2 is going to be the better experience. Gear is always a big topic when it comes to planning for a safari. What camera should you pack? What kind of lenses should you take? And all that kind of stuff. But without going into the details of all of that, I'm just going to say that for tip number 4, make sure that you pack a zoom lens. Now, the reason I say this is that you'll often find that when you're out on safari, animals tend to be much closer to you than you would expect. And if you're visiting private safari lodges or that kind of thing, they often allow off-road driving, so the guides can get you right up close to the animals and into the action. Now, I would suggest a 70 to 200 mm lens or 100 to 400 mm lens, because it's just going to give you that versatility on whether or not the animal is further away or closer to you, and you've got a whole range of compositions that you can work with. Prime lenses are great for that shallow depth of field and that clarity and clear shots, but if you have an elephant that comes towards the vehicle and is standing right next to you, you won't be able to do much with that. And then tip number 5, know what time of day is best for what animal. And this ties in a little bit to tip number 1, knowing the kind of shots that you want to get on safari. And I know, yes, the golden light hours of the morning and afternoon are often best, or usually best, but I know that when you go on safari, you're going to want to try and maximize your time out in the field and spend as much time as possible photographing animals. And That is why this point is so important, because knowing what periods of the day, what species would be active can help you plan your day and make sure that you get the opportunities for the shots that you truly want. Like elephants, for example, love coming to the water around mid-morning for a drink. So you can position yourself in such a way so that you can be prepared for those shots. Cats, like lions and leopards, are really good early in the mornings, as they usually are still active from the night before. And then buffalo usually drink water twice a day, and this would be in the cooler periods of the day so that they can conserve energy. And if the heat isn't too intense, you'll often find that rhino will actually be quite active throughout the day. And then finally, tip number 6, plan your safari for late autumn or fall to early spring. Besides the fact that you won't have to deal with the blistering African heat, going on safari in the dry months has several benefits. Animals tend to congregate a lot more around watering holes during these periods because there's less water around, and this makes them more predictable and easier to find. The vegetation tends to be less lush, and you've got a clearer view further into the bush, which gives you more photo opportunities, usually. And then finally, clearer skies. During the dry months, you'll have a much lower risk of your safari being threatened by bad weather, and the lighting conditions are usually crisp and clear during this period. Click over here for more tutorials. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.